Imagine this: you're standing across from her at a cafe table. The coffee is warm, the setting is perfect, and you're trying to keep the conversation flowing. You lean in, you smile, you ask her questions, but there's something in her posture that unsettles you. Her arms fold like steel bars. Her body shifts slightly away. Her eyes dart around the room as if she's scanning for an exit. You feel it in your gut, but you tell yourself you're imagining it. You convince yourself she's just tired, shy, or distracted, but deep down, you already know what's happening. Her body language is screaming the truth you don't want to hear. She doesn't like you, and instead of listening to her silence, you keep talking, keep investing, keep hoping. That's where men lose their power. The first trap is denial. You don't want to admit that her crossed arms, her lack of eye contact, or her constant phone checking means she's not into you. You invent excuses because rejection feels like failure. But here's the hard truth: women rarely say, "I don't like you" outright. They communicate it with subtle movements, unconscious signals, and quiet withdrawals. And if you ignore those signals, you're walking blindfolded into humiliation. Every second you stay invested in someone who's already checked out, you lose leverage. You think persistence will win her over, but all it does is cement your place as the man who can't read the room. Think about how many times you've been there. She offers you the polite smile, the one that doesn't reach her eyes. Her shoulders turn slightly away when you lean closer. Her feet are angled toward the door, not toward you. When she laughs, it's short, forced, and dies quickly, leaving silence heavy in the air. That silence is not an invitation, it's a barrier, yet you fill it with more talking, more explaining, more effort. You're trying to win approval that's already been denied. And what happens? She leaves the interaction without respect for you. She doesn't hate you. She doesn't even think of you. You become a forgettable blur in her day. Why does it work like this? Because women have been trained, socially and psychologically, to avoid direct confrontation. Telling you no outright feels risky. It could provoke anger, awkwardness, or guilt. So instead, she lets her body speak. She turns her torso slightly, creating distance. She avoids sustained eye contact, sending a subconscious message you're not the priority. She fidgets with objects, her phone or her drink, signaling her mind is elsewhere. These are rejection cues, but subtle enough to give her an escape route. If you're too blind to notice, she doesn't need to reject you verbally. You'll do the self-destruction on your own. The internal cost is heavier than you think. Every time you ignore these signals, you betray your own instincts. You start doubting your ability to read people, doubting your worth, doubting whether women even find you attractive. That self-doubt grows like poison, and the next time you meet someone, you hesitate. You overthink. You push too hard to compensate, and the cycle repeats. This is why so many men feel drained, resentful, and angry after dating. They've been pouring energy into women who never liked them in the first place. And all the signs were right there, written in body language like neon lights. The shift begins when you start believing your gut. If she crosses her arms, pulls away slightly, or avoids eye contact, don't rationalize it. Don't chase her harder. Don't throw more charm at a dead flame. Instead, test it. Pull back your own attention. Mirror her withdrawal. If she leans back, you lean back further. If she looks around the room, you slow your energy and stop giving her validation. Watch what happens. If she's interested, she will correct it. She'll re-engage. She'll lean in. She'll touch her hair or her necklace or give you the full attention you withdrew. But if she doesn't, you've just saved yourself hours, days, or months of wasted investment. That's how you regain power, by refusing to fight for someone who's already rejecting you in silence. Indifference is your weapon. Most men try to battle rejection by doubling their effort, when the smarter move is to step back. Indifference exposes the truth faster than any desperate question. When you stop chasing, you force her to reveal her real level of interest. And here's the key: your self-worth must not be tied to whether she likes you. The moment you make her body language about your identity, you lose. But when you see it as data, as the information to make better choices, you win. You stop being a beggar for validation and become the man who can read reality without flinching. So the next time you're on that date, pay attention. Notice where her body points. Notice how her arms move. Notice whether her laugh feels alive or forced. And when you see the signs of disinterest, don't panic, don't perform, don't beg. Just pull back, breathe, and decide if she's even worth your energy. Because the truth is, most of the time, she isn't. Have you ever recognized yourself in this exact situation? What happened next? Which one of these body language signals have you ignored before? What's the hardest part for you reading the signs? Or accepting them? Picture this: you're walking beside her after dinner. The night air is calm, the street lamps cast soft shadows, and you're thinking maybe things went well. You're replaying her smile at the table, the conversation you managed to stretch out, the moments where you thought you felt a spark. But notice her steps, they're slightly ahead of yours. She's not walking in rhythm with you. Her arms are swinging freely, never brushing against yours. When you slow down, she doesn't slow down with you. When you test a light touch on her shoulder, she tenses just slightly, the kind of tension she hopes you won't notice. These are not accidents. These are signals. Her body is saying what her words never will: I'm not with you. Men who don't pay attention end up telling themselves lies. You convince yourself she's just shy, that she needs time, that maybe next date she'll open up. But the truth is, interest doesn't need that much time to reveal itself. Women who like you don't hide it in layers of coldness. They lean closer. They find reasons to touch you. They match your pace. They hold your gaze without fear. What she does with her body is the purest honesty you'll ever get. The mistake is when you choose to believe her words polite, vague, non-committal over the sharp reality of her movements. Here's the psychology behind it. Women know men are desperate for hope. They know most men would rather cling to crumbs than face rejection. So she gives you crumbs. A half smile, a quick nod. We'll see when you suggest another meeting. Meanwhile, her crossed arms, distant lean, and flat tone are screaming the opposite. And you, blinded by your need for validation, pretend those crumbs mean a feast. You're not just misreading her, you're betraying yourself. Think back to a time when you were texting a woman and she kept responding with one-word answers. You told yourself, at least she's replying. You convinced yourself it was still alive. But if you looked at her body language in person, you'd see the same thing: disengagement. Her eyes flicking away, her head tilted down at her phone, her body angled away. She's present, but she's not with you. And that's the cruelest rejection of all: not direct, but hollow. She wants you to keep trying, so she doesn't have to reject you. That way, she never feels like the villain. The cost of staying blind is humiliation. You invest more time, more money, more emotional energy into someone who has already decided against you. You build castles in the sand while the tide is already rolling in. And then one day, she vanishes. The unanswered texts, the sudden coldness, the "I don't think this is working" message you should have seen coming weeks ago, but you didn't see it, because you refused to believe what her body language already told you. You turned yourself into the fool who wouldn't leave when the lights were turned off. The way out is ruthless clarity. The moment you notice her body pulling away, you stop leaning in. The second she angles her torso toward the exit, you don't try to block her attention with more words, you mirror her detachment. This isn't a game of making her like you. This is a test of whether she does already. And if she doesn't, you move on. Not with bitterness, not with rage, but with discipline. You must train yourself to treat disinterest as the loudest no you'll ever hear. Because it is. Let's get practical. Next time you sit with a woman, run a silent test. Lean back slightly and see what she does. If she leans forward to reclose the distance, she's invested. If she stays where she is or leans further back, you have your answer. Test her eyes when you hold contact for a few seconds. Does she hold it or break it quickly to scan the room? Test her touch when your arm brushes hers. Does she leave it there or shift away? These aren't mind games. These are signals of truth. And your job as a man is to read the truth and act on it, not twist it into a fantasy. The power of detachment is this: when you stop chasing approval, you force women to reveal their real interest. Indifference doesn't mean being rude or cold. It means you let her actions decide how much energy you give. You stop begging, stop pushing, stop hoping. You let her body show her cards, and you play accordingly. If her body says no, you walk away with dignity. If it says yes, you engage, but only because it's mutual, not because you're clawing for scraps. Most men never develop this discipline. They stay trapped in wishful thinking, convincing themselves they're close when in reality they're being tolerated. You don't want to be tolerated, you want to be chosen. And the only way to know the difference is to pay attention to the language that never lies her body. So let me ask you, have you ever walked beside a woman who sped up to stay ahead of you? Did you ignore the tension in her body when you touched her, hoping it would change later, and when you saw her feet pointing toward the exit? Did you tell yourself it meant nothing? Now, imagine you're sitting across from her at dinner. You've told a story you thought was funny, something that usually gets your friends laughing. She smiles politely, nods once, and then quickly takes a sip of her drink. Her eyes drift past you, scanning the room, and when you stop talking, she doesn't jump in to keep the conversation alive. She lets silence sit there like a wall. You scramble to fill it because you don't want to lose her attention, but you don't realize she's already given it away. That empty pause was her body language telling you the truth: she's not engaged. Here's where men sabotage themselves. Instead of recognizing that silence as disinterest, you interpret it as a challenge. You think if you just tell another story, buy another drink, or compliment her again, you'll unlock her real warmth. But you can't buy attraction with effort. Attraction reveals itself without needing to be dragged out. If she wanted to connect, she would. Women who like you don't need constant resuscitation of the conversation. They meet you halfway. They feed your energy. They make you feel lighter. When you're the only one carrying the interaction, you're not building a connection, you're dragging a corpse. Think about what her body does in these moments. Does she lean in with her elbows on the table, closing the distance between you? Or does she lean back, arms crossed or hands folded tightly around her drink like a shield? Does she playfully mirror your gestures? Or does she sit rigid, unresponsive, as if waiting for the clock to run out? Men lie to themselves about these things. You tell yourself she's just reserved. But when a woman likes you, her body won't let her be reserved. She'll find little excuses to touch her hair, to lean forward, to adjust closer. She won't be able to stop herself from feeding the connection. Why does this work so effectively? Because body language bypasses words. Words are easy to fake. Women know how to say, "We should hang out sometime," without meaning a word of it. But the body betrays the truth. You can't fake leaning in with real warmth. You can't fake dilated pupils when you're excited to be near someone. You can't fake the instinct to match someone's pace and rhythm. When the body refuses to follow, no amount of polite words can save it. And if you ignore this, you're setting yourself up for the cruelest kind of self-deception. The cost of ignoring it is simple. You turn into her entertainer, her emotional babysitter, her ego boost. She's not there to connect. She's there to pass time until something better comes along. You spend hours telling yourself you're close, only to watch her drift away without guilt, because in her mind, she never gave you real signals in the first place. You end up hurt, not because she betrayed you, but because you betrayed yourself by refusing to read what was in front of you. So here's the shift: stop chasing words, start studying presence, stop hanging on what she says, start watching what she does. Test it. Pull back your attention mid-conversation and see if she pulls you back in. If you give shorter answers, does she dig deeper to keep you talking, or does she let it die? If you lean back in your chair, does she lean forward to re-engage, or does she take the space as an excuse to disconnect? If she truly likes you, she will not let the silence sit there. She will not let the distance grow. Her body will fight to stay connected. Here's the tactic: train yourself to hold back 20% of your energy in every interaction. Don't give her everything up front. Let her show you she wants it. This doesn't mean playing games. It means discipline. If you're telling the joke, let her laugh fill the space. If she doesn't laugh, don't rush to cover it with another. If you're sharing something personal, watch whether her body softens, whether she leans closer, whether she mirrors vulnerability. If she stays stiff, you don't press further. You protect your energy. You stop digging in barren soil. Indifference is power. When you no longer cling to the hope of being liked, you finally see the truth clearly. If she's in, she'll prove it without you dragging her there. If she's out, she'll show it without saying a word. And when you recognize it early, you save yourself from months of wasted time, money, and emotional exhaustion. The man who reads body language and acts on it is the man who never gets strung along. So ask yourself, have you ever been that guy who told story after story, hoping she'd eventually warm up? Did you ignore the stiffness in her body because you wanted to believe her polite smile? And when she finally ghosted, did you realize you'd seen it coming all along but chose to deny it? Now think of the moment when you're saying goodbye. You lean in for a hug, casual but hopeful, and she gives you the one-armed side hug, the kind that feels more like a handshake with a shoulder attached. Her body angles away, her head tilts back slightly, and her eyes already scan the street behind you. That's not affection, it's dismissal. You might tell yourself she's just being modest, but the truth is brutal. She's signaling distance, not closeness. And if you miss that signal, you'll walk away imagining a future that doesn't exist. Men destroy themselves in this exact moment. You replay the hug in your head, convincing yourself it was fine. You cling to the polite smile, ignoring the stiffness of her body. You send the follow-up text later, writing paragraphs she replies to with a single sentence. And you double down, thinking effort can turn indifference into desire. But desire doesn't work like that. Attraction isn't earned through overinvestment. It's revealed through alignment. Her body will show you long before her words ever admit it. Notice her patterns. When she likes you, goodbye lingers. She doesn't step back immediately. She holds eye contact, even after the hug ends. She turns her body toward you, as if reluctant to leave. But when she doesn't like you, it's clean, sharp, and quick. Her body says, "We're done." Her pace accelerates away. Her shoulders don't turn back. Her attention is already gone. If you keep texting after that, you're not showing persistence, you're proving blindness. Here's why this dynamic cuts so deep. Men are taught that persistence is noble. Movies tell you to chase harder, to never give up, to break down her walls with patience. But in reality, women use politeness as a shield. Instead of saying, "I'm not interested," she gives you half smiles and cold hugs because she doesn't want the drama of rejecting you directly. And you conditioned to fight for every inch, end up battling against silence. That's not noble, it's self-destructive. The cost is erosion. Every time you ignore rejection cues, you chip away at your own confidence. You start to believe women are unpredictable, when, in truth, they've been consistent all along. You just weren't willing to listen. And when your confidence erodes, you start overcompensating, buying bigger gifts, planning more elaborate dates, bending yourself into someone you're not, all to chase someone who made their answer clear with a single side hug. The shift happens when you decide to protect your energy like it's sacred. You must train yourself to see disinterest not as a challenge to overcome, but as a door closing that frees you to walk away. When she withdraws, you withdraw more. When she's stiff, you don't force warmth. When she rushes the goodbye, you let her go and never chase. This is not about pride, it's about clarity. If her body says no, you listen. You stop interpreting, stop justifying, stop creating fantasies. You act on reality. Here's how to apply it after a date. Pay attention to her goodbye. If she lingers, asks a question, or reopens conversation, she's inviting more. But if she hugs quickly, avoids closeness, and turns away fast, that's the verdict. Don't fight it. Don't text paragraphs later. Don't try to schedule something else. You thank her for the evening and move forward. Indifference is your shield. The less you fight against rejection, the less power it has over you. The discipline is this: you never explain yourself to someone who already rejected you silently. If she wasn't leaning in during the date, don't lean in after it's over. If she didn't want to touch you, then she won't want to tomorrow. Stop trying to resuscitate what was never alive. Protect your dignity by refusing to chase shadows. This is what most men fear, that letting go makes them weak. But in reality, walking away the moment you see disinterest makes you powerful. Because you show yourself that your value doesn't depend on her approval. You show her that you're not desperate for scraps. And you train your mind to trust evidence, not fantasies. That's how you build unshakable presence. So let me ask you, have you ever walked away from a date knowing deep down she wasn't into you, but still sent that long text anyway? Have you ignored the stiffness in her hug because you wanted to believe it meant something? And what cost did you pay for refusing to accept the truth? Her body already told you. There's another moment most men don't talk about, but you've lived it. You're sitting next to her, maybe at a bar or on the couch at a friend's gathering. You want to close the gap, to feel that spark of contact. So you shift just slightly closer, and instantly, her body reacts not in words, but in movement. She angles her knees away. She places her bag between you like a barrier. She adjusts her seat so there's a clear line of space. It's not accidental. It's instinct. Her body is telling you, no closer. And yet, too many men ignore this because they don't want the truth. When a woman is interested, space disappears. She'll lean in. She'll brush against you without apology. She'll let the silence carry without discomfort. But when she's not, her body becomes a fortress. Every adjustment, every shield, every lean away is a brick in the wall. The mistake is thinking you can break that wall with effort. You can't. You only look weaker the more you try. Think about the psychology here. Women don't want to embarrass you, and they don't want to deal with confrontation. So instead of telling you outright that she doesn't feel it, she lets her body handle the rejection for her. She closes herself off with posture, with distance, with protective gestures. She's hoping you'll get the message without her needing to say it. And if you ignore that message, you're not just pushing her away further, you're training her to see you as the man who doesn't understand subtlety, who doesn't respect unspoken boundaries. The cost is brutal. You walk away from the night feeling like maybe you had a chance, replaying the few laughs, the few polite nods, You convince yourself she just needs time, that she'll open up if you keep showing up. But what really happened? You ignored her truth. And now, if you keep pushing, you're crossing from hopeful to pathetic. You're teaching yourself to ignore reality in favor of fantasy. And that habit destroys men more than rejection ever will. Here's the shift. Start running tests with your presence instead of your words. If you lean back, does she lean in? If you fall silent, does she speak up to fill the space? If you stop touching, does she find an excuse to re-establish contact? These are micro tests that reveal interest without you needing to guess. If she doesn't correct the distance, if she lets the silence stay dead, if she never reaches out to re-engage, you have your answer. And that answer is no. The tactic is simple but rare. Stop rewarding indifference. If she closes her body off, you don't throw in more effort, you don't lean harder, talk more, buy more drinks. You lean back, you conserve energy, and you observe. Let her reveal herself without your interference. If she's interested, her body will fight against that distance. If she's not, she'll stay in her fortress. Either way, you win clarity, and clarity is worth more than false hope. Most men lose because they make rejection about their worth. They tell themselves, if she's leaning away, I must not be attractive enough, funny enough, confident enough. But it's not about that. Sometimes she just doesn't feel it, and that's not a judgment on your value. That's information. The weak man makes her body language about his identity. The strong man makes it about strategy. He reads it, accepts it, and adjusts. That's the difference between the man who gets strung along and the man who walks away with his dignity intact. Indifference isn't cruelty, it's clarity. When you see her shield herself and you refuse to fight it, you're not being cold, you're being disciplined. You're saying, I won't waste myself where I'm not wanted. That energy you save will be invested in women who lean in naturally, who open without resistance, who don't hide behind polite distance. And those women exist. You just won't meet them if you keep throwing yourself at walls. So I'll ask you directly, have you ever noticed a woman pulling away physically, but convinced yourself it was nothing? Did you ignore the shield of her crossed arms or her turned knees because you wanted to believe she'd warm up later? And how many times have you paid the price for refusing to accept what her body made obvious? She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.